You didn't find this content by accident. Today you will discover the 9 unmistakable signs that reveal when an elderly person is preparing to depart from this world, knowledge that great spiritual masters like HELENA BLAVATSKY and Edgar Cayce dedicated their lives to understanding. Thousands of families live in uncertainty, perceiving subtle changes in their loved ones, but without knowing how to interpret what these transformations really mean. Today you will discover not only how to recognize each of these 9 sacred signs, but also how to prepare emotionally and spiritually to honor this moment of transition with love and dignity. And what I will reveal in the 9th sign will completely transform your perspective on death and the purpose of the soul. HELENA BLAVATSKY, founder of Theosophy and one of history's greatest visionaries, spent decades studying the mysteries of transition between worlds. She discovered that the soul doesn't leave the body abruptly, but follows a gradual and intelligent process, sending specific signs that can be recognized by those who know how to observe. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, confirmed these discoveries through his psychic readings, revealing that the spirit begins to prepare for departure long before the physical body shows the first evident signs. What makes this knowledge even more special is that not everyone can perceive these subtle signs. You need to have developed sensitivity, an open heart, and a deep connection with the spiritual world to truly understand what is happening. If you are here, it's because your soul already recognizes that there is something greater happening when we witness these sacred moments of transition. These are not just physical or medical signs that any person can observe. They are manifestations of the soul's eternal wisdom, indications that the spirit is preparing to return to the higher plane from which it came. HELENA BLAVATSKY taught that death is only an illusion of limited consciousness, and that those who develop spiritual perception can accompany this entire transformation process with reverence and understanding. During the next chapters, you will discover each of the 9 sacred signs that indicate when an elderly person is approaching their great transition. These are not coincidences or random symptoms, but universal patterns that repeat in all cultures and epochs, confirming that there is a superior intelligence orchestrating each departure. You will learn to recognize when the physical body begins to loosen its ties, when the soul initiates its process of detachment, and when the spirit prepares to take flight toward eternity. More importantly, you will discover how your conscious and loving presence can transform these moments into experiences of profound healing, both for those who depart and those who remain. Because when we truly understand what is happening, we stop being afraid and begin to live each instant with an intensity and gratitude that forever transforms our relationship with life and death. Prepare your heart to receive these revelations, because each sign you are about to learn may be manifesting at this exact moment in the life of someone you love. The first sign that HELENA BLAVATSKY identified in her studies about spiritual transition is the progressive detachment from earthly pleasures. It's not common sadness or a depressive state, but something much deeper and more mysterious. The elderly person begins to lose genuine interest in activities that previously brought them intense joy. Favorite food loses its taste. Music that once touched their soul no longer awakens emotion. Beloved places are no longer visited. Blavatsky explained that this happens because the soul, perceiving that its time on this plane is running out, initiates a natural process of detachment. It's as if it were gradually releasing itself from everything that keeps it bound to matter. It's not abandonment or giving up, but conscious preparation for a new phase of existence. The spirit intuitively knows that it needs to free itself from these bonds to be able to ascend with lightness. Mary, 89 years old, had always been passionate about gardening. She spent hours caring for her roses and talking to her plants, but in recent months she began to completely neglect the garden. When the family asked why she no longer cared for the flowers, she simply responded that she no longer felt like it. She wasn't sad or sick, just different. 3 months later, she departed peacefully while sleeping. Edgar Cayce, through his psychic readings, confirmed that this loss of interest is not pathological, but spiritual. The person's higher consciousness begins to tune into higher frequencies, causing physical pleasures to gradually lose their importance. It's a sign that the soul is preparing to experience joys from a completely different dimension. When you observe this first sign in a loved one, don't try to force a return to old interests. Instead, respect this natural process and offer your loving presence. Sometimes simply being beside the person, without pressuring for activities or entertainment, is the greatest gift you can give. Allow them to live this detachment with dignity, knowing it's part of a sacred journey. It's also important that you don't feel rejected if the person shows less interest in your company or family activities. It's not something personal, but a natural movement of the soul that is turning inward, preparing for the great journey. Your understanding and acceptance of this process can bring immense comfort to those experiencing this transformation. Comment which city you're watching from so we know how far this sacred knowledge is reaching and how many families are being touched by these revelations that can transform final moments into experiences of pure love. But what I'm going to reveal about the second sign will show you how the very dimension of time begins to alter in the person's life, creating bridges between this world and the next. The second sign identified by Edgar Cayce in his famous psychic readings is the profound alteration in sleep and wake patterns. It's not just common insomnia or fatigue from advanced age, but an energetic reorganization that connects the person with other dimensions of reality. The elderly person begins to sleep extensively during the day and remain awake at unusual hours in the early morning, as if following a rhythm that no longer belongs to this world. Cayce explained that during these periods of apparently excessive sleep, the person's consciousness is not simply resting. It is traveling, visiting astral planes, conversing with loved ones who have already departed, and gradually preparing for the transition. It's as if the spirit were making exploratory trips to its future home, familiarizing itself with the new reality that will soon be permanent. Margaret had always been a morning person, waking up at 5 in the morning every day. But in the last 2 months, she began sleeping until noon and staying awake, talking alone throughout the early morning hours. The family initially worried, thinking of dementia, but she was lucid and tranquil. She told them she was talking with her deceased husband and that he was preparing her for a special meeting. 2 weeks later, she departed serenely during one of those early morning hours. HELENA BLAVATSKY complemented this understanding by teaching that the veil between worlds becomes thinner for those who are close to transition. During sleep, especially in the hypnagogic state between wakefulness and deep sleep, the soul can access memories from past lives, communicate with spiritual guides, and even have glimpses of what awaits them after death. Those who care for these people frequently report that they speak with deceased relatives during these periods, describe paradisiacal places they visited in dreams, or express inexplicable peace upon awakening. These are not delusions or mental confusion, but genuine experiences of a consciousness that is already partially tuned to higher dimensions. If you're caring for someone who presents this pattern, don't try to forcefully correct sleep schedules. Respect this new energetic configuration and take advantage of waking moments for meaningful conversations. Often it's during these early morning hours that people share their deepest experiences and reveal aspects of their spiritual journey that can be precious for the entire family. Maintain a tranquil and welcoming environment during these periods. Light a candle, play soft music, or simply be present in silence. Your loving company can be the support the person needs to navigate safely between these two worlds. And now prepare to discover the third sign, which involves an extraordinary emotional phenomenon that can heal family wounds from entire decades. The third sign revealed by the great spiritual masters is one of the most touching and transformative, spontaneous reconciliation with the past. HELENA BLAVATSKY observed that people close to transition frequently develop an irresistible impulse to resolve pending issues, forgive old hurts, and reconnect with people from whom they had distanced themselves years ago. It's not a calculated mental movement, but a call from the soul that knows it needs to depart in peace. This phenomenon happens because the spirit, approaching total freedom, recognizes that carrying resentments is like trying to fly with chains on one's feet. The person's higher soul awakens and takes the reins, creating opportunities for old wounds to be healed. It's common to see proud people asking for forgiveness, resentful individuals extending their hand in reconciliation, and even the most reserved expressing feelings they had kept for decades. John, an 85-year-old gentleman, had argued with his youngest son 15 years ago over an inheritance. They didn't speak, didn't visit each other, and the entire family suffered from this division. But 3 months before departing, John called his son and simply said, "I need to see you, son. Nothing else matters but our love." The meeting was emotional, full of tears and hugs. John departed 2 weeks later, but left the family reunited and at peace. Edgar Cayce taught that this need for reconciliation comes from an intuitive knowledge that death is not the end, but a continuation of the spiritual journey. The soul understands that it will carry with it only genuine love and pure bonds it created during its earthly passage. Everything else, pride, hurts, material disputes, are unnecessary weights that must be left behind. During this process, it's common for the person to demonstrate surprising emotional wisdom. They can see beyond the small irritations of daily life and focus on what really matters: love, gratitude, genuine connection between souls. Often these reconciliations bring healing not only for those departing, but for the entire family, which rediscovers the importance of emotional bonds. If someone close to you is experiencing this phase of reconciliation, embrace this opportunity with an open heart. Don't question the motivations or hesitate to forgive. Recognize that you are participating in a sacred process of spiritual healing that can transform not only the person's final moments, but also your own understanding of love and forgiveness. Sometimes reconciliation happens through simple gestures: an unexpected phone call, a loving letter, or just a look of understanding. What's important is not the grandness of the gesture, but the sincerity of the heart. When forgiveness naturally springs from this transition phase, it has a transformative power that echoes far beyond earthly life. However, there is a fourth sign, even more mysterious, related to a form of intuition that defies all human logic and reveals the true prophetic nature of the soul. The fourth sign, identified by the spiritual masters, is an extraordinary manifestation of intuition, prophetic premonitions about one's own departure. Helena Blavatsky documented numerous cases of people who, without any serious medical diagnosis, began to naturally express phrases like, "My time is coming," or "I've already lived what I had to live." These weren't expressions of pessimism or depression, but manifestations of an inner wisdom that transcends common consciousness. Edgar Cayce explained that this happens because the soul possesses akashic records that go far beyond what our conscious mind can access. When the moment of transition approaches, these records begin to leak into consciousness, creating intuitive knowledge about one's own destiny. It's as if the person had access to a cosmic calendar that indicates when their earthly mission will be complete. Carmen, a perfectly healthy 78-year-old lady, began organizing her belongings and making comments about her imminent departure. She told her children, "You won't need to worry about me for much longer." The family thought it was just melancholy, but she insisted with quiet certainty. 2 months later, during a routine medical consultation, they discovered an advanced heart problem. She departed peacefully 3 weeks later, as if she knew exactly when it would be. This form of premonition should not be seen as morbidity or fixation on death, but as an awakening of higher consciousness. The person is not wishing for death, but recognizing a cosmic pattern that their soul already understands. It's similar to how animals sense changes in nature. There is a developed sensitivity that captures information from subtler dimensions of reality. Blavatsky taught that those who develop this prophetic intuition are generally more spiritually evolved souls who maintain a stronger connection with their higher self. They can perceive the natural rhythms of existence and align with them harmoniously, without resistance or excessive fear. When someone close to you begins to express these premonitions, it's important to listen with respect and without judgment. Don't try to convince them otherwise or minimize their perceptions. Instead, use these revelations as opportunities to deepen conversations about life, love, and the legacy they wish to leave. Often these people have important messages to share precisely because they know time is precious. Take advantage of these moments to ask questions you've always wanted to ask, to express feelings you may have kept, and to create memories that will become treasures after the departure. The person who has these premonitions is usually more open to deep conversations and can offer valuable insights about life and spirituality. If you're experiencing this with a loved one, share in the comments how this journey has been, as your story can bring comfort and understanding to other families. But wait until you discover the fifth sign, which involves a transformation in the gaze that reveals proximity to angelic dimensions. The fifth sign, described by Helena Blavatsky, is one of the most sublime and recognizable manifestations, the luminous transformation of the gaze. It's not something that can be easily explained in words, but those who witness it instantly know that something sacred is happening. The person's eyes gain a serene depth, sometimes a subtle luminosity, as if they were reflecting lights from other dimensions. It's as if the soul were beginning to shine through the windows of the physical body. Edgar Cayce explained that this occurs because the veil between worlds becomes increasingly transparent. The person begins to perceive spiritual presences, to see beyond what physical eyes normally capture. Frequently, they fix their gaze on apparently empty points in the environment, or mention that they are seeing deceased relatives, angels, or celestial landscapes. Far from being delirium, these are genuine experiences of a consciousness that is already partially tuned to higher planes. Michael, an 82-year-old man who had always been very pragmatic and skeptical, began talking about luminous visitors who came to see him during the afternoon. His eyes gained an expression of indescribable peace, and he spent long periods contemplating what seemed to be emptiness, but with a serene smile on his face. He told his family that his mother, deceased 40 years ago, came to talk with him and prepare his heart for the reunion. A week later, he departed tranquilly with the same luminous gaze he had developed. Blavatsky taught that these spiritual encounters are real and part of the natural transition process. Souls that have already departed have the mission to welcome and guide those who are approaching the passage. It's as if they formed a celestial committee to ensure that no one makes this journey alone. The luminous gaze is the reflection of this interdimensional communication happening. During these experiences, the person may seem absent from the physical world, but is deeply present in a spiritual reality. They may smile for no apparent reason, extend their hand as if greeting someone, or make comments about conversations only they can hear. All these behaviors are signs that consciousness is expanding beyond material limits. When you witness this transformation in the gaze of a loved one, approach with reverence. Don't question what they're seeing or try to bring them back to reality. Instead, allow them to share these experiences if they wish, and offer your loving presence as an anchor between the two worlds. Often, gently holding the person's hand is enough for them to feel safe during these spiritual journeys. This luminous gaze is also a gift for those who remain, as it allows witnessing the continuity of life beyond death. Seeing peace and joy in the eyes of someone who is departing can completely transform our understanding of the transition process, replacing fear with admiration before the sacred mystery. And now prepare to learn about the sixth sign, which reveals a behavioral transformation so profound that it seems to show the soul's true personality. The sixth sign, observed by the great visionaries, is an extraordinary behavioral transformation, the emergence of inexplicable lightness and peace. Helena Blavatsky documented how people who had always been tense, controlling, or worried suddenly develop a serenity that surprises everyone around them. It's not a forced or artificial change, but something that springs naturally, as if the soul's true essence could finally express itself without the limitations of earthly fears. Edgar Cayce explained that this happens because the spirit, perceiving that it is close to liberation, begins to release the bonds that kept it tied to limiting behavior patterns. Anxieties about the future lose meaning when one knows a new reality is near. Worries about material possessions dissolve when one understands that nothing will be taken. What remains is the purity of being, manifesting through gentler gestures, more frequent smiles, and spontaneous gratitude for small things. Teresa had always been known in the family as a difficult person, critical and rarely satisfied with anything. But in the last 3 months of life, she became another person. She began thanking for food, praising the care received, and even laughing at situations that would have irritated her deeply before. Her grandchildren, who had been afraid of her, began seeking her company, enchanted with this new loving version of their grandmother. She departed, leaving a completely transformed memory of herself. Blavatsky taught that this lightness arises because the soul recognizes that it is about to free itself from the weight of material existence. It's as if it anticipated the freedom that is coming and began experiencing small doses of this liberation still in the physical body. Gestures become slower and more deliberate, the gaze sweeter, the tone of voice softer. There is a silent wisdom in the air, a deep understanding that everything is exactly as it should be. During this phase, it's common for the person to express gratitude more intensely than ever. They thank for simple things: a glass of water, a ray of sunlight entering through the window, the presence of a family member. This gratitude is not nostalgia or sentimentalism, but genuine recognition that each moment still lived is a precious gift. Often, people who were never affectionate begin to show affection spontaneously. Those who were reserved start sharing memories and feelings easily. It's as if all the emotional barriers they built throughout life simply dissolved, allowing pure love to flow freely. If you're witnessing this transformation in a loved one, receive this gift with an open heart. These may be the last opportunities to know the person in their most authentic and loving form. Take advantage to create special memories, record these demonstrations of affection, and allow this new version of the person to touch your life permanently. This lightness can also be contagious, inspiring the entire family to act with more gentleness and understanding. It's as if the proximity of departure reminded everyone about what really matters in life: love, connection, and the ability to find peace even in the most challenging circumstances. The seventh sign identified by the spiritual masters involves a fascinating phenomenon: the intuitive reaction of animals to the proximity of transition. HELENA BLAVATSKY repeatedly observed how dogs, cats, and even birds demonstrate completely different behavior toward people who are approaching departure. It's not coincidence or imagination, but a manifestation of the heightened energetic sensitivity that animals naturally possess. Edgar Cayce explained that animals can perceive changes in the human auric field long before any physical symptoms manifest. They sense when vital energy is changing, when the soul is preparing to disconnect from the body. That's why a dog that never approached a certain person suddenly cannot stay away from their side, or an independent cat decides to sleep in the person's bed every night. The story of Rose perfectly illustrates this phenomenon. She had a cat named Prince, who had always been aloof and rarely sought human company. But 2 months before her departure, Prince began following her throughout the house, lay at her feet while she watched television, and in the final weeks, never left her bedside. On the day she departed, the cat remained by her side until the last moment, as if it were a spiritual guardian fulfilling its mission. Blavatsky taught that animals, by not possessing the same mental complexity as humans, maintain a purer connection with the subtle planes of existence. They can perceive spiritual presences, energetic changes, and even the approach of spiritual guides who come to fetch the departing soul. It's common to see animals staring fixedly at apparently empty points or acting as if they were interacting with invisible presences. In some ancient cultures, animals that demonstrated this behavior were considered sacred, as it was believed they served as bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds. They offered comfort not only through physical company, but also through a form of energetic protection, ensuring that the person didn't feel alone during the transition process. Many families report that, after the loved one's departure, the pet shows signs of deep mourning, refusing to eat, looking for the person, or even trying to lie in the place where they used to stay. This confirms that there is a genuine emotional and spiritual connection that goes beyond what we normally understand about the relationship between humans and animals. If you have a pet at home, and it is showing this type of protective behavior towards someone in the family, pay special attention. Don't push the animal away even if it seems to be bothering. Recognize that it is fulfilling an important function, offering comfort and company in a way that perhaps we humans cannot provide. Allow the animal to remain close to the person, as its presence can bring a sense of security and tranquility that facilitates the transition process. Often, the proximity of animals reduces anxiety and promotes a more peaceful environment for everyone involved. Share your experience if you have already witnessed this special behavior of animals, as these stories can bring much comfort to other families. And now the time has come to reveal the eighth sign, which involves subtle physical transformations that indicate a profound energetic reorganization. The eighth sign revealed by the great visionaries are the subtle physical transformations that indicate a profound energetic reorganization. HELENA BLAVATSKY observed that the physical body, in its infinite wisdom, begins to redistribute vital energy when it perceives that transition is approaching. These are not just obvious medical changes, but energetic alterations that manifest through specific signs that few know how to interpret. Edgar Cayce documented how the temperature of the body's extremities, hands and feet, begins to fluctuate unusually. Even in heated environments, these parts become cold, indicating that vital energy is concentrating in central organs, prioritizing what is essential to maintain consciousness active during the transition process. The skin may also present a slightly different tonality at certain times of the day, acquiring a subtle paleness that comes and goes. Albert had always had warm hands and feet, even in winter. But in the last 2 months, his extremities remained constantly cold, regardless of ambient temperature. The family initially thought of circulatory problems, but exams indicated nothing specific. 3 weeks before departing, his skin gained an almost translucent tonality at some moments, as if a gentle light was shining from within. These physical signs were the first indicators that a profound transformation was happening. Blavatsky explained that these physical changes reflect an energetic process, where the body is preparing to release the soul. It's as if the organism were performing a final dance, concentrating all its forces to facilitate the transition smoothly and naturally. The energy that once distributed uniformly throughout the entire body now retracts to vital centers, creating these characteristic physical manifestations. Another important aspect observed by the masters is that these changes don't cause significant discomfort to the person. They may not even consciously perceive these alterations, as they are focused on deeper internal processes. It's as if the physical body were fulfilling its function discreetly, allowing consciousness to prepare spiritually without distractions. During this phase, it's common for the person to need less food and water, as the body is naturally decreasing its metabolic demands. Don't force feeding or worry excessively if the person refuses meals they once enjoyed. The organism knows exactly what it needs at each moment of this sacred process. Keep the person comfortable and warm, especially the extremities that may be colder. Offer soft blankets, warm socks, and if they accept, gentle massages on hands and feet can provide much comfort. These simple physical cares demonstrate love and attention during a moment when the body is working intensely on deep energetic levels. It's also important to observe that these physical changes are part of a natural process and should not be cause for extreme alarm. Instead, recognize them as signs that the body is fulfilling its function with wisdom, preparing everything for a harmonious transition. And now we reach the most important moment, the 9th and final sign, which will reveal the deepest truth about the purpose of death and forever transform your understanding of life's continuity. The 9th and final sign, identified by the great spiritual masters, is the most sacred and transformative of all, the manifestation of luminous presence and direct communication with the spiritual world. Helena Blavatsky and Edgar Cayce agreed that in the final days before transition, many people develop such an intense connection with higher dimensions that they can see and interact with beings of light, spiritual guides, and loved ones who have already departed. These are not hallucinations or mental confusion, but genuine experiences of a consciousness that is already partially liberated from the limitations of the physical body. During this final phase, the person may speak about intense lights, golden corridors, celestial landscapes of indescribable beauty, or the presence of angels and spiritual masters who came to receive them. They may smile at invisible presences, extend their hands as if being helped to stand, or pronounce names of deceased people as if conversing with them. These moments are sacred and represent confirmation that death is only a transition, not an end. Blavatsky taught that this interdimensional communication serves to reassure both those departing and those remaining. The person transitioning receives confirmation that they are not alone, that there is continuity after physical death, and that they will be received with love on the next plane of existence. For families witnessing these moments, it is tangible proof that their loved ones will be safe and at peace. The most important thing of all is to understand that when we recognize these 9 signs, we stop seeing death as tragedy and begin to honor it as a natural phase of the spiritual journey. Each sign you learn today, from detachment from earthly pleasures to communication with the spiritual world, reveals that there is a superior intelligence orchestrating each departure with love and wisdom. You who have reached this point possess a special sensitivity, a spiritual openness that allows understanding these sacred mysteries. This is not coincidence. Your soul recognizes these truths because you were chosen to be a guardian of this knowledge, someone capable of transforming moments of farewell into experiences of pure love and spiritual growth. When you apply this wisdom in your life, when you know how to recognize and honor these signs in a loved one, you will be fulfilling a sacred mission. You will be offering dignity, understanding, and unconditional love to those who need it most. And this is one of the highest forms of service that one soul can provide to another. If this knowledge touched your heart, share it with other people who may need this light. Subscribe to receive more spiritual teachings that can transform your understanding of life and death. Comment below which of the 9 signs most caught your attention and how you intend to apply this wisdom. And if you have a story to share about these signs, tell us, as your experience may be the comfort someone needs. Remember, death is not the end but the beginning of an even greater adventure, and you now possess the keys to recognize when this adventure is about to begin.